Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of Sit with Stitt, a podcast where we take on taboo, controversial, or otherwise important topics and contend with them for the internet. This week's topic is tribe and belonging. I have these humans in my circle that I'm grateful for lately who are encouraging me to take words and just sort of intuitively break them down into their smaller parts, not to get all scientific or technical or look at the etymology, but just kind of like study the word. What does it mean? And so when we look at the word belonging, it kind of speaks to the fact that all humans have a longing to be. Well, where should they be? Who should they be with? How should they be treated by those people? A belonging. And when you talk about belonging, you're really talking about your tribe and your innermost circle of humans who you give something to, who you receive from, who build you up, who you do life together with. And very often in my work, I say that we don't work with individuals, we work with tribes through individuals. Your self-work has a direct correlation on your tribe's health, because very often when people come in here, they're not sick. There's just a lack of equilibrium in the tribe. There's a lack of proper orientation in the tribe. And as they do their self-work and learn to love themselves and become confident and communicative, then they can address those issues in their tribe, and they can have tough conversations, and they can, take the weeds out of the garden. They can recognize maybe some people they're just not compatible with, and maybe that's okay, and it's not their fault, and they don't have to hate themselves or feel shame or suppress or create a delusional bubble where this relationship is good for them. So today I just want to talk a little bit about how to deal with building tribe. When I first started ETMA 3 years ago, or maybe a few months after, and things were starting to grow and expand, and I wanted everyone to have this place of community, but it wasn't, as far as I could see, it was this very sacred, almost confession-like process where someone would kind of sneak in the door and sit down on the couch and do the shameful work of talking about their life, and then very discreetly sort of go back out to their car and drive away and feel a little better. And I was like, how do I get from where we are, which is something that is beautiful and sacred. People should have a safe place to talk about things that they can't talk about elsewhere. It's not demeaning to that, but that just wasn't the full breadth of what I wanted to build. So I was talking to a friend about that, and they said, Dustin, don't you think if you want to share community with other people that you first need to experience it for yourself? And that's like one of these very casual little remarks from someone that, smacks me personally in the face, and I have to sit with it for 6 months, because it speaks to receptivity. I'm someone who listens to people for a living. I feel like a very receptive person. But while I can be receptive of truth, and I can even be receptive of and grounding of other people's emotions, that's a lot different than being able to receive love. And so what I learned is that your ability to have trusting relationships with other people directly correlates with your ability to receive from them, to receive love, to receive gifts, to receive compliments, to receive affection, to receive criticism. If you cannot receive those sorts of things, don't make the mistake of thinking that it only affects you, because that does affect your tribe and your ability to have healthy relationships and conversations and communication and boundaries and all of that with other people. So if you know that it's difficult for you to receive affection, note that also means it's difficult for you to receive community and tribe. The first step to building a healthy tribe is to be properly oriented. And if you want more information on any of the stuff that I'm talking about or have talked about in past episodes, I really encourage you to get my book Equilibrium, which I will link in the comments. But my way of being properly oriented in the world is the first few chapters of Equilibrium, which kind of argues that you should align first with God, and then with yourself, and then with all that is external. I don't try to define what God is for you. That's not my job. That's above my pay grade. I think a good starting place is to call truth God and to just seek truth, and you'll end up where you need to go. But regardless of whether your God is personified, regardless of whether you're following, some religious culture or not, recognize that the highest ideas you hold yourself to, the God of your highest understanding, your code of ethics, those sorts of things have to govern your relationship with yourself and then your relationship with everything that's external. Chapter 3 in Equilibrium is called Internal Orientation, and it is all about how to know yourself. There's parts in there like always return to stillness. Like you cannot have relationship with yourself if you're not spending time with yourself. And people say, well, I don't know how to have relationship with myself. And I say, well, how do you have relationship with anyone else? You care what they care about. You listen to them and what their needs are. You spend time with them. You do acts of service for them. You express love in whatever languages you like to use toward that person. So now you have to turn that process toward yourself. So ask hard questions about who we are, why we're here, what is God, what do I believe? Ask hard questions about yourself. What are your flaws? What are your toxic traits? What's the best about you? What are your strengths? What do you love about yourself? What are you working to improve about yourself? Give yourself acknowledgement for the experiences that you've been through and the character that you've molded as a result of those experiences. And I mean more moral character than like theater character, hopefully. And then you will be ready to build a tribe and really attract a tribe, because you will know yourself well enough to sort of walk in a vibration, in a frequency of authenticity, and the people who are for you will be attracted to that, and the people who are not for you will be repelled by that, and that is okay. That's how it's supposed to be. So do the work of understanding yourself, and by that, not just the comfortable work, do the uncomfortable work to know your own insecurities, know your triggers, know what can break you. And for many of us who have survived trauma, remember that might be things like affection and love. And if it is that, then notice that and don't run from that truth. I think as you're getting to know yourself, you should note not only the deficiencies, but also be aware of overcompensation. So like, for example, if you didn't receive enough affection from your mother and now you're always running into the arms of women, but also pushing them away at the same time, that is an overcompensation. If you were raised by an abusive father, and so now you don't ever engage conflict, even when it's necessary or would be wholesome or beneficial to yourself or your tribe, that's an overcompensation. In my work, my psychological work, my spiritual work, for myself and with others, a good chunk of what I do is to try to identify and reduce overcompensation. You should have awareness of your attachment tendencies as well as your projection tendencies. If you know that you attach too quickly, and that you just, when you have limerence with someone, when you first meet someone and they're interesting, you just want them to be like there with you all the time, and you just love them so much and you're just obsessed with them and they're your person, consider that they might not want to connect that way. You can have secure attachment, you can have anxious attachment, you can have dependency relationships. Just know and be self-aware enough to know what your tendencies are and to study what healthy attachment looks like, and your tribe will benefit from that. And when I say healthy attachment, what I mean is like what I said in Equilibrium is obligatory relationships are not relationships. Your relationships can't be founded on expectation. I think as you move into the inner circle, expectation matters. You should be able to expect the people in your inner circle to care about what you care about. But you can't expect them to know what you haven't communicated. In the book, The Four Agreements, they talk about that as making assumptions. If you're moving through life making all these assumptions about what other people want or how they treat you or things like that, you're probably doing yourself a disservice. So If there's something that is important to you, communicate about it. If you haven't communicated about it, don't be resentful toward people for not already knowing and understanding it. And then when it comes to your projection tendencies, this is just, do you put people on a pedestal? I remember when I was getting my associate's degree, I was coming out of the military, I was going through a divorce, I was going through a lot of stuff, and there was a professor that I really connected with who was always pointing me toward different memoirs and literature and stuff like that. And I knew, like, oh, I have put this person on a pedestal as like my teacher, and that, maybe that's not entirely appropriate. Like, that's a college professor. They were nice enough to see me in office hours and to give me some pointings, and I think most educators like to do those sorts of things for students. But I immediately became aware of, like, oh, I have a lot of respect for this person, and they're filling a role that I need filled in my life right now, but I'm not gonna like take too much or, be reaching out all the time. That brings me to this kind of concept of enoughness, which is so important in the maintenance of tribe. If we're elevating someone and putting them, on a pedestal as like perfect, sometimes people see the work that I do and they're like, oh, I so respect your work. And then like I miss something. I'm late for an appointment, or I've double booked, or, I've canceled something and haven't advertised it properly or something like that. When we put someone on a pedestal and expect them to be perfect, they're gonna fail. They're gonna fail us. I'm going to fail people. Other people that I look up to, that I put on a pedestal, they're still human, And so that's where, one, you have to accept whatever people have to offer as enough, and accept that, for me, I believe in providence, the idea that things ultimately will happen the way they're supposed to, even in my tribe. There will be times when I'm supposed to be very close to someone in my tribe, and maybe for some blessed relationships that will last for my whole life. Maybe in others it won't. I just trust and know that I will be engaged in the relationships I'm supposed to be engaged in, to the extent that I'm supposed to be engaged in them, and that is enough. It is enough if someone has been a close friend for a time and wants to move on from that friendship. It is enough if a client comes and does really great work for 6 months and then says, hey, for financial reason or for any reason, I don't want to keep coming here. Like, whatever our interactions with other people are, it is enough. And you can feel out what they're receptive to in the relationship, but ultimately, just kind of the whole idea is namaste. The light in me sees the light in you, like, thank you for this contribution to my life. You can create opportunities for people to be closer to you, and you can note and observe whether they take those opportunities or not. Don't assume why they're not taking those opportunities, but just take the information, enjoy the journey with one another, and recognize that in the end, whatever people have to give is enough, because it is what they are supposed to give. Finally, I want to kind of close with a couple of ideas. One is that a coach I've been working with, Melissa Holman of Lemon Balm Coaching, shared with me that I've been mulling over for a few weeks. And it's the idea that I have the right to be separate and still belong. I can be a member, say, of a Christian church and still study other cultures or read books that they don't like. I can be an active and engaged member in my family and them also think that I'm weird. I could be a part of a tribe and still draw away from that tribe whenever I need to during seasons. And if that tribe is whole, and if they're doing their work, they're going to encourage me to do whatever I need to do, as guided by the God of my highest understanding, my first point of orientation, and guided by my inner voice, my second point of orientation. And because I do what that God says and what that inner voice says, then I will be able to maintain a healthy tribe and let go of the parts of my tribe that are not healthy. I have the right to be separate, but still belong, because all of us long to be. If you're watching this, you're like, well, I don't even want tribe. I don't even need anybody. I just want to be alone. Well, that's an overcompensation, like we talked about earlier, because we all want to belong. We all long to be. That is what life is. What do we long to be? Where do we long to be? How do we long to be? Those are the sorts of questions that you can focus on in building your tribe, who hopefully longs to be similar things as you, And then you can shape your world together by ensuring that your tribe is moving together toward those goals. And finally, I just want to end with like a suggested exercise that I have not done yet. I will do this because I think it's important. Draw a circle. Draw a circle that represents your tribe and put some notches on the circle with people who you consider to be, whether they're close or maybe not too close. These could be intimate relationships or not, but just draw a notch of who is in your inner circle and what you receive from them and what you give to them. Like, what function do these people serve in your life? And be honest, just do this as a private exercise, because if you draw this circle and it says, okay, here's my husband who I contribute everything to and he never does anything for me, well, maybe that's a problem. If it says, here's my husband who is my partner in all things, maybe that's a good thing. You could put, here's this friend who we do these activities together and I find myself giving these things and receiving these things. Basically, it allows you to go through the exercise of listing who you have given position, which in some ways is authority. Like, these are the people you're giving your life to, you're giving your time to, your finite time to. How does it make you feel to be around them? Are you losing energy? Is your energy staying the same? Or are you gaining energy by being around these people? All of those could be appropriate in different situations, but at least know the answer. Know who your go-to, oh crap person is. I'm freaking out. I'm having a terrible day. Who am I calling? That person should be on there. And what do you give in turn? And just notice whether these relationships are relatively balanced in reciprocation. Are you receiving more than you give? Are you giving more than you receive? Are there relationships in your life where only one of those things ever happens? And just kind of take a note, because if there are deficiencies in your tribe, then sometimes you have to cut people out of the tribe. Sometimes you just have adult conversations. And so sometimes the choice is, I will do nothing. I think that person's growing or whatever. We're not doing this to react. We're not doing this to transform. We're just doing this to note, to notice, and to kind of express intention for moving forward. And if you want to shoot me a message privately and just say, hey, this is what I found about my tribe. My intention, however, is this, and I'm going to check back in 6 months and let you know if I've gotten any closer to that intention. Intentionality is really, really important in not only building a tribe, but in life in general. So my intent for this video is to bring kind of exposure to the fact that self-work isn't all about the self, and more often we're treating or helping, working with a tribe through the individual. So as an individual, you are an ambassador of your tribe, and you want to make sure that you are an ambassador to or an ambassador of the right things. I hope to be an ambassador of creating safety for people and creating love for people and being supportive and being patient and being composed and kind. And so the people that I want in my circle are the people that can have those attributes even under pressure. And ask yourself some of those questions as you're doing your circle, and this person takes this role and this person takes that role. Ask yourself, how does my tribe respond to grief? How does my tribe respond to emergencies? How does my tribe respond to being in a rut for many months in a row? Just ask yourself, am I properly oriented in the way that I should be? Is my tribe properly oriented? And what can I work on about myself that will have implications in my tribe and make all of us feel healthier and more connected and more able to receive healthy affection and more able to trust and more able to depend on? And I guess may we all fill the role of dependable tribesfolk in our kind of path forward. For so much of human history, we lived in tribes. And now it's like, oh, social media is a thing. We don't have to be connected anymore. We don't have to teach or learn or walk with each other. Well, according to neuroscience and your genetic code and your nervous system and everything about us, We still all long to have a place to be. What's your tribe look like? How can we help you make your tribe stronger? Give us a call. I hope this was helpful. Namaste.